Parikshit, no one other than him has been over the earth for so long as a young man.
From Adartha came a young son named Sunita, Sunita. The son of Sunita was Niketana, the son of Niketana was Dharmaketu, and the son of Dharmaketu was Satyaketu.
O King Parikshit, from Satyaketu came a son named Drishtaketu, and from Drishtaketu came Sukumar, the emperor of the entire world. From Sukumar came a son named Vitihotra, and from Vitihotra, Bhargava, and from Bhargava, Bhargabhumi.
Maharaj Parikshit, all of these kings were descendants of Kashi, and they could also be called descendants of Kshatrava. The son of Prabha was Prabhashan. From Prabhasha came Gambhira, and from Gambhira came a son named Akhi.
The son of Akrir was known as Brahmavid. O king, now hear about the descendants of Anena. From Anena came a son named Shudha, and his son was Suchi. The son of Shuchi was Dharma Sarathi, also called Chitravid.
From Chitraketu was born a son named Shantaraj, a self-realized soul, who performed all kinds of Vedic ritualistic ceremonies and therefore did not beget any progeny. The sons of Raji were 500 and all very powerful.
On the request of demigods, Raji killed the demons and has returned the kingdom of heaven to Lord Indra. But Indra, fearing such demons as Prahlad, returned the kingdom of heaven to Raji and surrendered himself at Raji's lotus feet.
Upon Raji's death, Indra begged Raji's sons for the return of heavenly plan. They didn't return. However, although they agreed to return Indra's shares, nature is still servants.
Thereafter, Brihaspati, the spiritual master of the demigods, offered oblations in the fire so that the sons of Raji would fall from moral principles. When they fell, Lord Indra killed them easily because of their degradation. Not a single one of them remained alive.
From Usha, the grandson of Chitraketu was born a son named Pati. The son of Pati was Sanjaya, and the son of Sanjaya was Jaya. From Jaya, Prita was born, and from Prita, King Hrideval.
Anybody left?
From Hrideval came a son named Sahadeva, and from Sahadeva came Hina. The son of Hina was Jayasen, and the son of Jayasena was Sanpriti. The son of Sanpriti was a powerful and expert fighter named Jaya. These kings were the members of the Kshatrava dynasty. Now let me describe to you the dynasty of Nahusha.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. So we would be reciting the verse 14.
We had two people from last verse here, Sahadev and Jaya.
Pitri upareti putra yacha manaya no dadu trivishtapam mahendrya yajna bhagan samadhu. Okay, let's do that then. All right, I'll go to the translation straight, and the purport is pretty small. We'll go back to the chapter index. So, when I was reading this chapter, right, there were a lot of questions and thought processes that started coming in my mind, and I'll just try and share that. There's not much that I can speak because I'm not too learned, anyways, in these subject matters. But there are a lot that I could start thinking about and then start reflecting on what Srila Prabhupada has taught us overall, right? So first thing that comes to my mind is, we're talking about the dynasties of son Puruva, right? Of the sons of Puruva. And why are we doing that? Like this entire chapter we just read, and we are reading names and names and names. Does it help us give names to our kids? And is that why the chapter is here, or is there is any other reason for it, right? The reason for it, right? So there's this very interesting thing where we're saying Bhagavatam is the book, right? Srimad Bhagavatam is the book, and then there is Bhagavata, the person, who is actually living embodiment of the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam, for example. So when we are looking at all these dynasties of the entire family tree, the objective is to understand the Bhagavata, the person involved in the activities of the Lord and in different ways of how these devotees are interacting. Now I started thinking about why. Why is this important to us? And then, there are a couple of things that came to my mind. For example, when we are looking at these activities of the devotees, it kind of sets example for us of saying how are we supposed to be acting in different circumstances. It's kind of like, how in our professional world we identify what we call scenarios, the different ways in which things can happen. And in that, kind of defining what should be the outcome of it. So if you look at the entire volume of Srimad Bhagavatam, everything that can happen in our life has happened with somebody. Right? So we can take all of these examples and saying, oh, like that, I should act now. So it sets example for us, and it does not only just sets examples for us, it also sets an example in terms of saying that, oh, I am the son of somebody or a daughter of somebody, and I'm the father or a mother of somebody, and so on. We're kind of contextualizing our situation and kind of saying, I'm a son of a devotee, or I'm a son of a non-devotee, and so on and so forth. And because of that, we start rationalizing our situation. The idea is also, when the full family tree is given to us, it helps us understand the context that these are like these devotees who have been practicing Krishna consciousness and have been able to elevate themselves by the process that's given in the Bhagavatam are also like us. There's not much of a difference in the perspective that they are also householders coming in, like born in a particular family, facing a certain situation, and all of that remains the same. And now when we're looking at their activities and how they interacted, we start understanding the activities of the Lord himself also. How did they interact with the Lord? What did they do which pleased the Lord? So we start coming to understand about the Lord himself also. And in all of these things, the one thing that I have very commonly heard, and let me know if it resonates with you or not, is, in our families, mostly we would hear things like this, oh, you're talking about examples of all of these exalted devotees, but we are not there yet. So what you're talking of practices for them or what they achieved, don't even talk about all of those practices and sadhanas and achieving the results in our context, because we are not there. But when we read these entire family trees, the entire context, we kind of understand that there is not much of a difference. We can be there if we follow the same path that they have followed. There's not much of a difference. The starting point is the same. That's kind of why I think these have been talked about over here. Now, jumping on to the other aspect in the verses around 13, 14 and 15, right? We're kind of seeing Lord Indra. Lord Indra loses the heavenly kingdoms once again. I'm sure, at some point, even Krishna would be like, oh man, not again. Right? So then it did start a thought process in my mind, right? And it kind of came to a particular conclusion. So why is Indra coming into this position again and again of difficulty? Why is he losing the kingdom again and again? What is happening over here? Right? And all of these things kind of brings up to a lot of interesting facts over here. Even if Lord Indra, the king of the heavens and the king of all the demigods, he's done a lot of austerities to come to his particular position. But he is still in some aspect being driven by sense gratification. Is it not? I want to enjoy. Right? So when you're doing sense gratification, you will be having karmic reactions for sure. Till when we don't come to the state of akarma, when we are doing activities for Krishna, there will be karmic reactions. So why are we surprised when we look at Indra facing the karmic reactions of himself? And we can also understand from the perspective that yes, the others who are trying to rule over and take up the heavenly planets from Indra are also driven by sense gratification, which also helps us to reflect on the fact that if everybody in the society is driven by sense gratification, then there cannot be peace in the society. So how can there be peace? It's like Bhoktaram Yajanatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suhidam Sarva Bhutanam Gyatva Mam Shantim Richati. Very clear thing. Till when you don't understand that the Bhoktaram Yajana Tapasam, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, that's Krishna, that the proprietor of everything, the benefactor of all sacrifices, yajnas, austerities, whatever you're doing is all for Krishna. The heavenly planets, the lower planets, whatever we have is ultimately for Krishna. Only then can there be peace. Now, what are we talking about in terms of wars between countries? This is much greater and bigger than that. This is interplanetary wars that are happening right now, right? And if there is no peace that is coming in, if people are driven by sense gratification in this scenario, there is no way it can exist in our society, right? So what do we understand, and what is that we are supposed to be taking away from this is a fact that, we can keep performing so many different types of austerities, dharma, kama, artha, right? We can keep going for all of this moksha, right? All four of them, we can keep running behind all of these things, keep doing so much. I'm going to do all of these tapasyas, I'm going to earn so much, I'm going to become the most beautiful person, I'm going to become the strongest person. Whatever we keep driving ourselves with, we'll not be able to get out of the cycle of miseries. When in all of that, what can be done as a Jiva Tattva, without coming into the boundaries of Krishna consciousness, is the highest is Indra. We keep talking about, the person has left and has reached the heavenly planets, as if it's a very high destination. It's not. Even there, the suffering exists. At the peak of the heavenly planets also, as Indra, he's suffering again and again, losing what he had. And it's same. I lose my phone versus he loses the heavenly planets, the pain is similar. Right? There's not much of a difference. Right? So, why do we have to put in so much of effort in all of these other austerities? This is what was my reflection when I was reading about these. It's like, it's waste of time. So much of education, so much of, everything that we do, unless we are actually surrendering ourselves to Krishna and doing activities in Krishna consciousness, it's a waste of time. And we have to reflect back and say, what percentage of my 24 hours did I waste? Right? So that is where it comes. Now, the other half of it is where I started reflecting then next. Sure, it is because of karmas that Indra keeps getting into troublesome situation. But then why is he rescued? You have a child who is being naughty, does the mistake once, you help him how to get out of that troubled situation that the mistake has got him into. Maybe second time, maybe third time, fourth time you're going to give a tight slap and say, why do you keep doing it again and again, right? But what is happening with Indra? Why again and again? Like in the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, I don't know how many times Indra loses the heavenly planets. And it keeps happening again and again, right? But why is he again and again rescued and helped out? I think, so let's look at this way. Sure, we are bad. Okay? And this is where we need to reflect. Sure, we are bad. Sure, we are fallen. Sure, we are not at the full position where we are supposed to be. But if we are doing things at least in a favorable situation to the holistic order that Krishna has created, then he will assist us. Right? Lord Indra, even if he is into sense gratification, even if he is again and again doing mistakes, he's done a lot of mistakes and he accepts that. But still at least he's in favor of and very assistive towards cultivation of Brahmanical culture, for example. He will do things that make sure that the Brahmanas are able to do Krishna conscious activities. They're able to do their yaginas. They're able to do all the other things. And that is why he's favored. So even if we do mistakes in our Krishna conscious process, even if we are falling down again and again, even if all of those things are happening, but our direction is correct. Holistically, the direction is correct of we wanting to become more Krishna consciousness, Krishna will favor us. That's how we can see this as an example if we want to. Right? The other way we can also look at it is sacrifices, austerities, all of these things that are done is what ultimately leads you to a very pious position, a position which is favorable for sense gratification. And it will exist only till when the pious activities have not exhausted. So Indra, how do we get the position of Indra? How many Ashwamedh Yagyas? 100 Ashwamedh Yagyas. You do it and you are at the position of India. You promote it there. That austerities leads you to an opulent position where you are able to have more sense gratification if you want to. Until when those pious activities are not finished, you will be able to maintain that position for yourself. We can see it in that way also if we want to. So how do we understand this? And how do we reflect on it? We see around us that there are a lot of bads. We see people smuggling drugs and all the other things which even by the law of the land is wrong. But we still see them in an opulent position. How? If there are karmas, actually, people challenge about this, if there are karmas actually truly existing, how is that these people who are doing the wrong are in an opulent position? Why are they not getting their karmic reaction and falling down and suffering? It's because of the previous pious activities. Till when the pious activities, the results of them are existing there in that opulent position, as soon as those pious activities are exhausted, now they fall down and start reaping the results of their impious activities. So just because one is in an opulent position right now does not mean they will continue to remain. Just because we are thinking, which also brings back a reflection in saying, what are all these different type of philanthropic activities that we try and do. Okay, I'll open a hospital, I will do this, I'll do. What is the result of that? It will lead us to an opulent position for some time only. Srila Prabhupada, there's so many places have mentioned this. You've been able to elevate yourself to the heavenly planets, you'll be there for some time and then you'll fall down. What's the benefit? When you take a flight, let's say for example you're doing Dham Yatra to India, you have to do a lot of effort to be able to get that business class. Right? Very opulent, very nice. Right? Till when the office is paying for it, it's good. When you start paying for it, you feel the pain. How do we justify saying, I don't need a business class, I don't need to kind of spend that money? I said, come on, 14 hours, 15 hours, 18 hours, whatever, I'll manage. Right? I'm not going to spend 1 year of hard work and saving to be able to get 16 hours of luxury. That's how we justify. Look at it in the same way. Heavenly planets, very nice. There is misery still over there. How much effort did we put in to get to that stage? Each Ashwamedha Yagya takes so much of resources, so much of effort. We have read about that in the Bhagavatam. Doing 100 of them. And in that, obviously, Indra trying to oppose you and trying to defeat you, not being able to do it. Right? All of that opposing factors, you take it and come to the position only to keep losing it again and again. What's the point? Right? So these are reflections that I kind of had. Okay, let's go to the next one. Let's talk about King Raji for a minute. King Raji, over here it's said that, his activities, is, I think it's what? 13, he's being requested by the demigods. 14, death. That's it. 2 verses, the entire Leela of King Raji is finished. Why is there no description for it? On the other hand, there are so many other descriptions of the war going on for a long time and descriptions of the war happening. Even, for example, the churning of the ocean, that Leela has been described so much in detail. Last week we were reading about this battlefield description, so much detail. Why are we summarizing this over here in just 2 verses? This is also a very important learning here, right? Srimad Bhagavatam, the objective of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam is to glorify the Lord. Is to communicate information, knowledge which helps us go towards Krishna. Understand Him better, understand how to serve Him, understand the ways how we can approach Him better and serve Him, right? So anything which is not in focus in that direction is reduced in context. But there are others where the Lord is Himself coming in and doing activities, which becomes the Lord's activities. His Leelas are described very much in detail. So this is being described over here maybe just for our reflection purposes, for some understanding, but then where the description is more, that is where it is taking 3 chapters, 4 chapters also as descriptions, right? So now this is what happens when the description is less, by the way. Right? We start speculating. And I'll take an example of how this speculation can work. Where is that verse? Verse 13. On the request of the demigods, Raji killed the demons and thus returned the kingdom to the heavens of Lord, the kingdom of heaven to Lord Indra. But Indra, fearing such demons as Prahlad, returned the kingdom of heaven to Raji. Sorry, something on the screen. So, over here it says that Indra was fearful of Prahlad. Now we can start spinning out of control here for a second. Why is Prahlad Maharaj being mentioned over there? He's a devotee. Why is Indra being scared of him? Oh, you know what? The Leela of Prahlad happened when Hiranyakashipu was there. Oh yeah, maybe you know what? This is happening at the time when Prahlad's mother was kidnapped out of fear of Prahlad. And but Hiranyakashipu was not lost. He never lost. He was the lord of the three planetary systems. And so on and so on. You can spiral out of control completely. Right? These are speculations. These are not being mentioned anywhere in the scriptures, have not been revealed to us by the authorized bona fide acharyas to us. So, one thing that we have to understand is the fact that, we are not munis. Do you know what is the definition of a muni that Srila Prabhupada has given? Anybody? Who is a muni?
Different philosophy than other munis.
Correct. So, the concept of a muni is that you're able to spiral out all of these thought processes, different combinations of things. What if this is, why is this? And all of these thought chain, we create a mind map. It's kind of like a mind map going in from your mind, all of these different combinations of thought processes. And a muni is actually a muni if his thought process and chain of thoughts is absolutely unique, not equal to any other. We are not munis. What we just tried to do by looking at that just word Prahlad over here in one word was try to become a muni and trying to spurl out all of these thought processes and then we would start getting into the habit of doing some research here and there. Let me Google out, let me use ChatGPT to find out a little bit more to support my thought processes or my conclusion over here in order to make it bona fide. If you try and do a search like this, you will always be able to find something in your favor. There are articles out there on the internet which will also favor drinking alcohol if you want to, right? So that is what we are not supposed to be doing. So when the description is such short, we also have to understand the fact that what is important for us has already been given to us. It is good for us to first, like what my Guru Maharaj has given me an instruction is first fully, thoroughly read Srila Prabhupada's book, completely understand it before you go up in the hierarchy in the parampara system to read more and expand more if you want to. We cannot step on our Guru in the parampara system to go up before we have not understood the one who's given Guru. That's his instruction, but may or may not apply to you. The idea, but basically, is the fact that there are certain aspects which have been very clearly mentioned. There are certain aspects which have not been mentioned. Which has not been mentioned, it's probably not needed for our progress in Krishna consciousness. We can park that. Difficult to do, but we can do that. Right? If there is something that we need to do, it will be revealed to us in some way or the other in an authorized way. We are not munis, we are supposed to be devotees. That is what I take as the conclusion of this aspect, right? Now, let's look at the other aspect in a few more minutes, right? There's this another verse where it says, therefore, Brahaspati, the spiritual master of the demigods, offered oblations in the fire so that the sons of Raji would fall from moral principles. Let's talk of this for a second. What are these moral principles? When we talk of principles, like moral principles, right? The principles that we see in the society right now is all mixed up. Why is that mixed up? Let's take an example. We say do not hurt anybody. To steal from somebody else is bad. It's against the moral principles to do that. But when a thief is caught, he says, it's right for me to steal. Why? My family is hungry. I'm supposed to be feeding them. That's my responsibility. And in order to fulfill that responsibility, if I have to steal, I will steal. I'm not wrong. So now where is the moral principle lying? Let your families die with hunger or stealing, which is the moral principle which comes in. The perspective of these principles in the material world as we see is from our perspective. And that is the problem, because your perspective versus my perspective versus somebody else's perspective will be different, and now there is no moral principle left because everybody is able to justify based on their own argument, and that's the problem. What is right versus what is wrong? We always struggle and we always argue and always keep debating, but we've never been able to encompass everybody and make everybody happy. So what's the missing aspect? The moral principles actually is the one that lies in the dharma, the Sanatan Dharma, which is basically understanding the eternal identity that we have as eternal a soul, right? So any principle that we base on the fact that we are a soul who is an eternal servant of Krishna, and from that if we derive a principle, then that becomes the moral principle, which is universal and applicable for everybody. Now there cannot be a conflict. What are these principles that we start coming about? There are 4 legs of dharma that even the Srimad Bhagavatam describes. The austerities, cleanliness, compassion and truth. And from these are derived the 4 regulative principles that Srila Prabhupada has given us. Of no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling. Right? All of those regulative principles are coming in because these are the moral principles that we are supposed to be maintaining always. So if we any principle that we are trying to derive, so deviation from these moral principles, what does that mean? It means that we have started to identify ourselves with the body. We have started to get engaged into sense gratification. We kind of covered with and under the control of lust, anger and greed. When we are in these criteria, that is when we have deviated from the moral principles. So that is what is basically being talked about here, that the sons of Raji, they fell down from the moral principles, which means they started engaging into this. Now what happens when we fall down? We fall down, then we lose our lustre and we lose our complete benefits of everything that we have so far received, including the opulence that we received. Spiritual progress, everything, you lose it for sure. You also start losing material benefits. Like it happened over here, they lost the kingdom. They lost the heavenly planets, right? So maintaining these regulative principles is not just important for our spiritual, but also for our material purposes also. Right? We can see this. There are very, very tiny descriptions in there in these verses through which we can extract all of these learnings. Now it also says that Brahaspati, the spiritual master of Devanath, offered obeisances, and then it says, where is the verse? Where it says they were he offered the obeisances, and so the son of the of Raji would fall from their moral principles. Now, by doing all these yagyas and everything, how did somebody make somebody else fall down from the principles? That's an interesting question. It's again something that we need to reflect on, because we have to make sure it does not happen to us. Now there are these examples that Srila Prabhupada gives very interestingly, right? And these are very concepts that you will see in different words and flavors. It exists everywhere in the world. For example, the evil eye, the concept of buri najar, evil eye, right? I'm looking at constantly at you and with envy and everything, and that makes you fall down or lose your opulence in a sense. Or this concept of somebody's having this dark art, black magic, something, and because of which something is happening to you. There's also this concept that comes in that, there are ghosts that exist, and the ghosts are influencing you or have entered into your body, and so on and so forth. And now they are making and doing things which is causing you to deviate from the principles. All these things, Srila Prabhupada says, yes, it is possible. Interesting, right? But why is it possible and how is it possible? It is only and only possible if we are not strong within. One of the examples that Srila Prabhupada gives is that of a ghost. Who is a ghost? One, right? Without a body, you say? So we have a gross and a subtle body, right? So there is no gross body for when the living entity does not have a gross body, only has a subtle body, which means they're not liberated, they're not spiritual in nature completely. They're still under the modes of material nature, still conditioned, but they don't have a gross body. Because of multiple reasons, they don't have a gross body. But now they still have because of the subtle body, they still have the tendency to want to enjoy. I want to eat nice stuff. I want to hear nice stuff. I want to satisfy my senses, but I don't have senses. How do I satisfy them? That is when they try and enter into another gross body, taking control of that body to be able to do sense gratification. That is what Srila Prabhupada explains. Now, if you are strongly situated in your house, can somebody come and intrude and throw you out or push you into a corner and take control of your house? No. It's only when your defense system, your security system is weak, only then that can happen. So in all of these cases, even in the cases somebody, doing these oblations, is doing dark arts, doing any of these activities, even ghosts, can only impact us only if we are not solidly situated in Krishna consciousness. If we lower down our security systems, only then can we be affected by it. So this is what happened in these cases of sons of Raji. Their security system was low. What are our security systems? The entire program that Srila Prabhupada has given us. Not one element of it is optional. Reading, eating aspects, chanting aspects, everything, association, everything that we see that Srila Prabhupada has given us is a mandate as part of that security system. Right? We cannot have amazingly secured building created very nicely with security system with windows kept open without anything in there. Everything else fails. We cannot have the windows secured with all of the metal grills and everything and leave the front door open. Or worst, have no roof. Right? So that's the entire security system is this full 3D system that Srila Prabhupada has given us. Every aspect is important. And every aspect needs to be given equal importance. Right? So that is what happens. So when we are talking about the moral principles, we talked about what that moral principles is. How is that we can actually fall down? Our fall down is because of us only. The others are external factors only triggering or exploiting the weakness in our own security system. Right? So what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to be controlling our mind completely. Arjuna asked this question in Bhagavad Gita. He says, why is it that it looks like I am pulled into sinful activities by force? And that is where Krishna responds by saying you have to practice to control your mind. So that is the point of how we are increasing our security system, right? It might not look very interesting to do, but it is needed. What is the analogy that Srila Prabhupada gives? A very beautiful one. He talks about eating of a sugar candy when we are diseased with jaundice. The sugar candy tastes very sweet, very nice, very palatable. But when you have jaundice, the same sugar candy is the one which tastes bitter. It's not going to taste well. But if you keep having it over the period of time, your jaundice is going to get cured and you will be able to relish the sweet taste of the sugar candy. So it's the same with Krishna conscious principles also. When we start doing Krishna conscious principles, having to wake up early, having to chant 16 rounds, I wish I could watch a movie, something, right? Everybody has their own trouble, right? Our own struggle. In each of these struggles, it feels like, what are we trying to do in our life? We're trying to restrict ourselves. We're not having fun. But that's like the bitter taste of sugar candy because of the jaundice that we have. If we give it time, if we be patient, if we be consistent, then we will always be able to get to the point where we can taste the nectar and be relieved of our diseases. So that's the effect of all of these fall downs that we talked about, deviating from moral principles. We'll come to a point where we'll lose our opulences, we'll lose our lustre, but being consistent in these services is what helps us. Now, one question, that my final question, the thought process over here was, we're talking about fall downs, we're talking about deviations, we're talking about, leaving the moral principles. What is not categorized as fall downs? We will make mistakes, we're just talking about that, right? So what is a fall down versus what is not a fall down? So there's this concept, I'll take it from the financial world for a second, right, as an example. There's something that is called a credit rating. Anybody knows about that? There's AAA, AA credit ratings, right? Any financial institution, it could be a government, it could be a corporate, it could be any of these agencies who are given a rating. They're saying, we know for 99% for sure you will not default in giving back the money that we give you. That's called a credit rating. If the credit rating is lower, say a double B or something, it kind of indicates something like saying 75% probability that you will give the money back, 25% probability you will not be able to do it. Right? That's our credit score also as an individual. So one is called a rating. Right? Where are we currently positioned? Am I with my credit scores at 400s, 300s, 200s? Where am I? That is my current position. But then there is second term called the outlook. Is the outlook positive, negative, or neutral? Which means I am here, but where am I tending towards? Am I going upwards or am I going downwards? The temperature is 22 degrees. It makes a lot of sense, understood. But it's 22 and getting warmer, or it's 22 and getting colder. The experience of 22, depending on if you are experiencing it while the temperatures are going up or while the temperatures are going down, is going to be different. So why am I giving this as an example? Is because it is the same for us in Krishna consciousness also. We are Kanishta, Madhyama, Uttama, Adhikaris, but where is our tendency? What is our outlook? That is what matters. Sure, I am a Kanishta. I don't know anything. But because I'm making an effort, I'm doing the right things, my outlook is positive, I will eventually be able to elevate myself to a certain higher level, for sure. So it's doing something wrong by itself is not what is counted. It has its effect, no doubt, it slows us down, but the fact is, as an overall general principle, are you still tending towards doing the right things or not? That is the question. That's the outlook. Right? So, there's one example that I'm going to give, right? So, Srila Prabhupada, in the very early times when all of these very, very nice devotees that we have were trying to practice Krishna consciousness, were being told about all the principles, do not eat eggs, meat, blah, 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 blah. They're all trying to do very nicely. So now one press reporter comes to Srila Prabhupada and he's talking to Srila Prabhupada about what are the things that one should be doing for spiritual progress, etc. And Srila Prabhupada is listing down things, follow the 4 regulative principles, etc., etc., always chant. He's explaining very nicely. And the reporter says, now I've caught you. You know what? You're talking about all of these things, but all your disciples go around the corner and they're eating donuts right now. Srila Prabhupada is not surprised, he knew it. He says, but they're trying. That was the difference. Yes, they're doing it, but they're trying. So Srila Prabhupada was merciful to all of his disciples even when they were trying. So that's the outlook. But there's a caveat, there's terms and conditions, the final point. The final terms and conditions is that we are talking about these mercies of amazing devotees like Srila Prabhupada saying, they are trying, I will still give them support, I will still be there with them to help them through the journey, I will still pull them up. Right? That's our process also. And we talk about these very, very amazing examples like Ajamil, did the most sinful things in his life, he fell down, but just one utterance of the holy name of the Lord and he was delivered. So I'll do that. These are causeless mercies. These are exceptions. This is not going to happen to everybody. We also have to understand 2 things, right? That when we said that little fall downs, mistakes is going to happen, we are supposed to be, as I said, have a positive outlook saying, how do I do better tomorrow than what I did today? It also means that we are not relying on that causeless mercy that someday, somewhere, something will happen, a miracle is going to happen and then I will become a pure devotee. No, the effort has to be put in. Even in the case of Ajamil, now Srila Prabhupada has this very small book called Second Chance. If you read that, Srila Prabhupada has talked about it very nicely in there. He's saying, Ajamil, yes, he did get the causeless mercy, but his mercy was to get the second chance. Just because he uttered the name of Narayan at the time of his death did not mean he got liberated. Read the descriptions in Bhagavatam very carefully. Read the description of what happens to Dhruv Maharaj, the description at the time of his death versus the description that is there at the time of Ajamil. Dhruv Maharaj, there's an arrow, the plane that comes in, takes him and his mother and goes. Ajamil, it talks in the very next verse that he got the chance, he got the enlightenment again to realize his mistakes and he started practicing Krishna consciousness and that is how he got liberated. So if we keep thinking, fine, mistakes happen, fall downs happen, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. It's okay only till when, as an average overall, we have a positive outlook. And that gives us the second chance of being able to overcome or gives us time to overcome our mistakes. But we cannot keep relying on these causeless mercies by Krishna or the devotees or by your guru to be able to just overnight do something magic and help you get rid of these problems. We have to practice towards it. So with that, I'll stop. Any comments, questions, anything? Whoa, wow. Yes, Prabhu.
So, in the beginning, we were talking like how there will be peace if we engage in Krishna's service, right?
Yeah.
But I have seen like even if we engage in Krishna service, there is some amount of distress. Why is that?
That's part of the process. Srila Prabhupada in one of the places explains this very nicely, and he says, when you take up the process of Krishna consciousness, you declare war against Maya. And Maya does not want to be defeated in the war, right? She's going to make sure that you're still she's doing her service well, right? So you're going uphill right now with the war against Maya, but at a point where you've been able to sincerely prove yourself against Maya that I am sincere to become Krishna's devotee, that's when all of a sudden she leaves. There has to be a test before Maya leaves you. You can take it in that ways. Or you can take it in the ways that irrespective of the fact that our gurus, the entire parampara system has taken most of the karmic reactions, they leave a little token to keep reminding us. If you deviate from the path, you know where you are going. They leave a slight token. So as devotees, we are supposed to be very merciful and thinking, oh no, our suffering is just a small percentage of what I deserve because of my previous karmas. That's the attitude. So those are all part of the plan. Why is there a lot of pain when you start picking up a new skill set? When you start playing a guitar or anything, a mridanga, right? Your hands are swollen, right? When you started, right? Why is there pain? Because that's just the initial test of your perseverance. If you pass it, you're good. Does that help? Somebody here, yes, so.
Thank you for class and annual discussion.
Okay.
My question is that here you mentioned like Sudhir Goswami mentioned Prahlad Maharaj is given as Prahlad, and the second question is why Dharmadri is mentioned here, but we heard in the 8th canto that he was appeared from the churning of the ocean. So he was present before also.
So that is where we get into the realm of speculation, right? So that is what we talked about. We'll try and avoid because so there are a couple of things here, right? For us to be able to try and tie the chronologically what is the event happening is impossible. Why? Because the activities are happening across in different universes. It happens again and again. One. And it's happening across different planetary systems. The time concept works different, even if you're talking about the material. There are so many factors that come in because of which we cannot perceive these things. So we have to accept it in the way that the Acharyas has given us and to the extent that the Acharyas has given us. Once we keep fully surrendering, there will be more realization that will come in automatically, and that is how we will realize it. So unfortunately, I will not be answering that question because it goes into the realm of speculations. Thank you.
And about the demon as body, Sudhir Goswami mentioned Prahlad Maharaj.
So he's mentioned as demon because he was born in a demoniac family. So it's like the family, what's it called? The family title. Let's put it that way. And in that way, he was born in the family of demons. And again, that's why he was, and you have to understand the context over here is, Indra is getting afraid that a demon, he's looking at Prahlad as a demon, that the demon will come and take away my kingdom. That's also one more reason, right? Because Indra at this point does not realize that he's a devotee probably. Probably he realizes it afterwards. But it's how you are seeing it, how you are perceiving the activities. And he's just relaying that thought process. Any other last question I can take and then we can wrap up. Please,
Thank you. You spoke first about genealogy, and so what you said is very nice, but someone can argue that why do we have to have a long list of names to teach us what to do, what not to do. We're not even hearing actually much of the actions and the character. So, yeah, why do we have lists of names?
So, apart from the reasons that I mentioned before, right? So, here's one more thing that I see. Like, this is my personal realization, right? Because Krishna is so merciful, right? He gives enough food for everybody based on their taste. What does this mean in this case is, there are people who want to know certain things. There are people who understand knowledge and approach it in many different ways. Somebody would try and understand things put chronologically. Somebody would try and put it in terms of a family tree, who's the son of whom, etc., etc., and who did what, how are they related. Others would try and understand it from a more of a scientific approach, like an analytic Sankhya philosophy approach. Others would just lovingly want to understand it as a story. But if you look at Srimad Bhagavatam, it fulfills all of these appetites. And maybe there is one set of audience who needs something like this, and for them it's provided. That's my guess.
I haven't heard that, but that makes sense. It gives authority to show that it's history.
Like even because you see, right? Krishna is so merciful that even to atheists he gave reasons to believe that he does not exist. Like we are saying, Krishna is beyond birth and death, but there is this activity in which he is taking birth, and there is an activity in which it looks like he's died. Right? So why did he do that? He did it just to give reasons to those who does not want to believe in the fact that he is beyond birth and death, and just giving them reasons. Maybe he's being merciful over here by giving all of this information. That's just my guess.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we'll stop here then. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Because of this and then we keep falling down from our spiritual path. And being in Krishna consciousness